Hello students, today we are going to touch the topic of foreign direct investment, FDI. FDI is one thing which you all have always heard about. FDI is something which you are witnessing post 1991. India has opened for the FDI. Because of the FDI only we can see lots of development and economical growth in our country. So let us understand that what basically FDI is, what are its advantages, what are its disadvantages, why we need FDI. So the first question which arise that about related why India requires foreign capital. Here I had referred the thing with the India, but why India requires foreign capital. Here I had referred the thing with the India, but we can also say that why developing country or underdeveloped countries require the foreign capital. So what the situation of the underdeveloped country or the developing country? Their economy need a boost. Their economy required to grow, and to grow any economy it is very important that there must be investments, there must be production, there must be production of goods and services, there must be sales. So within the country, if we are going to do the same, we are government is focusing on it. So with the domestic help, domestic firms, might be it is not possible because they are also having the limited resources. But when we open up any economy, these kinds of economy with the foreign capital, the foreign investments are coming, so it helps to speed up the economic growth. The very first point which comes is to speed up the economic growth. These foreign capital, this foreign investment in the form of FDIs ensures investments and also create the entrepreneurship in the areas, in the sectors where we are seeking growth, where our domestic firms are incapable of doing it. The very first, second point is to ensure investment and entrepreneurship in areas in which domestic investment does not flow. And it also helps to bring in foreign technology and business experiences. Without opening of the economy within the limited set in the economy, we are having the limited technology, we have the limited business experience. But when we exchange the experience, the ideas, the knowledge, when we exchange the technology or we import the foreign technology, it helps in reduction of the cost and producing of the better quality of goods and services. This foreign capital or the foreign investments or the foreign firms bring this technology which can be adopted, for which the domestic firm can learn, the domestic firm can gain the experiences and boost their own businesses. So the next question arises, in what form foreign capitals become available? In what manner we can have the foreign capital? Here, the very first thing is foreign direct investments, which we are talking about, which is the topic of the today. It means that foreign companies set up their subsidiaries and branches in India. Then we have these some portfolio investments, where the foreign in subscribers, or we can say foreign people or foreign companies, buy these or subscribe the share and debentures of the domestic companies in our country, in the developing country or in the underdeveloped country. So here they are not having any control. They don't have any they don't take any control of the management of the companies. They just invest their amount, their money, in those companies where they feel it's a profitable, they will get a good rate of returns, they will get the good interest amount. Whereas in foreign direct investment, when the company is investing, they are setting up the subsidiaries, they are setting up their branches, so they control over the management of the firm, where in which is not again in the portfolio investments. Then we can have the foreign collaboration. That means if the FDI is totally not allowed by the government policy, according to the government policy, so foreign and Indian firms can jointly participate in a business. They can bring their two competent areas and produce the goods and services and supply the goods and services in the country. For example, we can take the example of Maruti Suzuki, where the technologies and the other benefits of the domestic areas has been collaborated and they had captured a market in the automobile sector. Then we have intergovernment loans, in which foreign government grant loans to India for make the investments. Last is we get the loans from the international institutions like World Bank, IMF, through which we can make these loans are approved on the basis of that unprivileged sector where it requires the boosting, where it requires the investments, where it requires the capital formation, where it requires the generation of employment. In those areas, the World Bank and IMF provides the loans. Now coming to the concept of FDI, which is the main topic of today. It means investment in a foreign country where the investor retain control over the investment in terms of actual power of management and effective decision making. As I have explained in FIIs, that in FIIs the people are not having an interest to control the management. Their interest is only to see that what are the rate of interest and what is the return they can earn on their money in which they are investing in the different domestic firms. Whereas in FDIs, first people, the foreign firms, the people from the foreign country are investing in a project. They are having their own company, they are having own firms, they are having their own subsidiaries. So they want to retain, they will retain a control on the management, on the decision making, and they will look upon that how their funds are being utilized, how the things are going to be managed, and how they are producing the goods and services. So it typically occurs in the following ways: setting up a subsidiaries, starting a joint venture, acquiring a stake in existing firm in a foreign. Now coming to the FIIs. FIIs means the foreign institutional investors. We have already discussed that what is the difference between FDIs and FIIs. Having the quick glance on it, when the investors make only investment and does not retain control over the enterprise, it is known as portfolio investments. Here, the investor is interested only in return on his capital and does not want control over the use of invested capital. So, we can say portfolio investment is for a short period and is influenced by the short term gains. Whereas on the other side, if we talk about the FDI, it involves long term commitment and cannot be easily liquidated. Portfolio investments take place through FIIs like mutual funds, American depository receipts, global depository receipts, foreign currency convertible bonds, in which ADRs, GDRs, and MCCBs are securities issued by Indian companies in the foreign markets to mobilize foreign capital. American depository receipts, etc. So here we are not talking about the FIs, we are only talking about the foreign direct investments. We have got to understand till the previous slides that what is the FDIs, why we need to do the FDIs, how. Now we just need to understand that what are the major advantages when we are encouraging FDI in the developing country or in India. So the very first advantage is it increases the level of investments. As we know, if we just talk on the domestic firms, their investment to be will be a limited level. But when we invite the foreign firms to invest, we get the more of the investment in all sort of sectors. In each of sectors, the companies are coming and investing, placing, having their subsidiaries, having their holdings, and they are setting up their firms. They are in the same way, they are also providing the employment, they are also increasing the capital formation, they are producing goods and services. Ultimately it is affecting, helping to the production of more goods and services, contribution in the more GDP, and it also helps to create more exports and have the less imports. So the very first advantage for FDI is that is they increase the level of investment by supplementing domestic capital. Here the host country have the scarce capital resources from the abroad. As a result, it contributes towards the development of infrastructure, industry and service sector in the host country. It also helps to enhance business activities and to raise the economic development. Second point is it helps in transfer of knowledge, machinery and equipment, which I am repeatedly saying. Yes, when the foreign country is coming here, they are investing, they are bringing the knowledge, machinery and equipment. So advanced foreign technology, they helps to reduce cost and improve quality of products and services. Obviously when we are increasing the technology, we are getting the more better quality of goods, we are reducing our cost in producing the goods, and moreover this local firms, the domestic firms also get the opportunity for technology upgradation, because they will learn from the new technology and they can adopt that technology. The third point is that creates the managerial revolution. It's not only the technology, it also the management processes, management things, managing the way, management theories which are also imported in the countries. So it creates a managerial revolution in the host country through professional management and employment of sophisticated techniques of organizing and managing. Here, local firms get access to the world class management and corporate practices which they can adopt for their own businesses. Next is helps to boost the employment and income. In the starting of the advantage of FDI, had told you that having with the firms set up in by the foreign countries in the country, they need the people to work, and obviously they are not going to bring the people from their home countries, they are going to employ the people from the same country. And when they are employing the people from the same host country, that means they are raising the level of the employment, and these people are getting income in the form of wages and salaries. So ultimately they are this FDI is also promoting the income level of the country. So it helps to boost the employment and income through establishment of new industries and development of subsidiary industries. Or we can say not only subsidiaries, ancillary industries. For example, McDonald's bringing, they are coming with the their restaurant industry, the food industry. But as an ancillary industry, they're also bringing the logistic industries with them. So higher production and income in turn increase the tax revenue of the government. So it is also helping the government uh, to raise their income in the form of taxes, and the material and human resource can be utilized optimally in this method. It also helps the host countries to increase the export. If the goods and services are produced in a country, first of all they will be sold within the country, that means it will help to reduce the imports, and the excess of that can be sold to the other can be sold to the other countries, that means it helps to increase in the exports. So these add to foreign exchange resources of the country and improves the balance of payment position of the country. So it helps the developing or underdeveloped economy to move from the unfavorable balance of positions payments to the favorable balance of payments. Moreover, if we talk about India, the government of India had announced economic liberalization in 1991 due to foreign exchange crisis. Because it this in the during before 1991 we are not open with the foreign economies, with the foreign firms. We are not open, we are not a totally open economy. We were having certain exports but not in the major format. But there were more requirements within the country, loans were increased on the country, and when the World Bank has given the has seen the situation, they had suggested the country that first of all pay off your loans and open up your economy for the foreign exchange. Next is helps to increase competition and break domestic monopolies in the host country. So domestically there might be few firms who might be creating the monopoly in these certain products or services in certain sectors, but and might be their story that no other can have the easy entry to the market. But with the promotion of FDIs, these people will come, they will invest, they will get the major better technology, and they will give a tough competition to this domestic monopolism, and they will help to break this monopolistic chain or the chain of the creating only homogeneity product, and they give the variety of new products. If we see the FMCG industries, 1991, before 1991 in India, there were only few products which we are knowing with the in the FMCG, like in the soaps and in the toothpaste or any other. But now we have n number of varieties and we have n number of marketing strategies to promote that. So FDI has increased the competition and had broken the monopolies in the host countries. Next is it improves the standard of living. Obviously, when we are having the more of the variety, and we are also getting the employment, we are getting the income, we have our spendings is increasing, and in this format we are also increasing the standard of living within the country. But everything not only comes with the advantages, there are also certain disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages of the foreign direct investment? foreign direct investments are proposed to be encouraged so that all the sectors of the economy should be benefited. But the foreign firms in the foreign country are not here to do the social services. They will identify only those sectors where they can get higher profit, and they will not going to, and they are going to invest only in the higher profit sectors, and they are not going to invest in the priority sectors. So FDI investment are made majorly in the higher profit sectors rather than the priority sectors. If a government has to promote FDIs in the priority sectors, they have to give the more benefits or more access or some more liberties to the foreign firm so that they get attracted. For example, they can have the easy access to the raw material or any benefits in the income tax or subsidies, etc. Next is FDI takes place through MNCs, and these MNCs become the threat for the domestic players. Yes, these MNCs break the monopolistic in the country, but also as they are more powerful in terms of money, in terms of technology, in terms of expertise, they become the threat for the domestic players in the country. Next, the technology brought. We am again and again talking about the technology as this they are bringing technology. It has going to help a lot, but it also to be keep in mind whether this technology is appropriate to the market size. Is it appropriate with the stage of economic development? For example, we are bringing a technology which require high-fi internet connectivity, and we are not ready for it. So how come we can introduce this technology, and how come this technology can going to benefit in the country? Because this technology in that way is anyway going to become the failure. Last, it involve risk and cost for the home country because employment opportunity may shrink and balance of payment may suffer due to FDI. मैं आप एक जगह कह रही हूँ कि employment opportunity बढ़ेगी, दूसरी जगह मैं कह रही हूँ कि balance of payment positions खराब हो सकती है क्योंकि FDI को हमें करना है but एक control way में करना है. हम हर वक्त हर चीज़ में FDI को promote नहीं कर सकते. Indian government had although allowed the FDI, but they give a check that where they can allow the 100% FDI, where it can be done through the collaborations, where they are not at all allowing the FDI. So to reduce the risk and cost of the home country, कि FDI में जो पैसा कमाया जा रहा है वो country में ही नहीं वो अपनी home country में भी लेके जाते हैं. So to check the risk and cost of the FDI is also necessary by the government of the country. Now, let's understand what are the determinants of the FDIs. That means we are just going to understand that why an FDI is done by the foreign investors in some other developing or underdeveloped economy. क्यों ऐसा है कि वो अपनी डेवलप्ड कंट्री को छोड़ के किसी अंडर डेवलप इकोनॉमी के अंदर आके अपना पैसा लगाना चाहेंगे, किसी और कंट्री में अपना पैसा लगाना चाहेंगे. देयर माइट बी सर्टन रीजन. कुछ तो चीज़ें होंगी जो उन्हें अट्रैक्ट करेंगी, ऐसे तो नहीं करेंगे. सो वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट व्हाट आर दोज डिटर्मिनेंट्स और व्हाट आर दोज फैक्टर्स which attracts this foreign investment to invest directly, to have their chains, they have their subsidiaries, and to provide the employment. The very first thing is natural resources. Every country in this world have the abundance of natural resources in the different formats. Now more this natural resources, availability of natural resources in different formats, and now once explored in the developed country, natural resources can be explored in the underdeveloped or developing country because there the people who are doing business are not using all the natural resources, or they're not using the natural resources in the best way, or maybe they're not using at all the natural resources which can be utilized for the better goods and services, production of goods and services. So this foreign investor seeks adequate, reliable and economic source of natural resources in forms of minerals and other materials. So the country which is having the rich resources, but the country is having the rich resources in the form of natural resources, but they lack in the capital, in the technical know-how, in the infrastructure development, and the natural resources are not exploited, those countries are the major attractors for the foreign firms for having the FDIs. राइट. दो अगर हम आज के स्टेज पे बात करें द अदर फैक्टर्स लाइक टेक्निकल स्किल्स, कैपिटल are almost available everywhere in the world, so they have a relatively less importance, but having the good amount of natural resources is a very important aspect which attract the FDIs. So availability of natural resources is a major determinant of DI. FDI is attracted in those countries which have abundant unexploited natural resources. This is the first determinant. Second is the natural market. Having the natural resources, producing the goods and services using that natural resources, then what they will do? They just only produce. They will not do anything after that. They will sell the goods and services. So for selling, they need a natural market, a huge size of market where there will be the demand for that product. When they are getting the economies of this scale, because they are having subsidiaries in many countries, because they are focusing their only major core competencies, and they are getting these cheap natural resources, so that their cost of production is increasing, but the goods they are producing, they need the market, this size. Now in the previous slide we have discussed, I had told you that when they are opening up their subsidiaries in any developing or underdeveloped countries, that means they are using natural resources, they are providing the employment. In the form of employment, they are providing the income to the country, they are providing the income to the government also. That government income which is earned by the government in the form of taxes again is invested for the development of the nation. That means again the in some or the other aspects the income of the country is increasing. So the already the size of market in that country might be huge, unexploited, and now with the raise in income, their market is demanding, right? One thing is that. Second thing, जिससे पहले स्लाइड में हमने डिस्कस किया था, that domestic players might be the having the monopolies, that means providing some homogeneous product and not having so much of varieties. Once these FDIs are coming, the foreign investors are coming, they are producing goods. Suppose in the soap brands, initially in the market when the domestic players were there, and FDI was not there, in the soap brand might be there were 5 varieties of soap or 10 varieties of soap, but coming with the FDIs in the soap brands, might they have introduced with the more 10 varieties. So this variety is increased, these varieties are increased, and it attracts the people in that country to buy the new variety of the product. So this heterogeneity in the projects attracts the market, income is already there, and moreover these people are attracted to the new products, the variety of products, and are attracting towards according to their choices. It depends upon the marketing strategies which has been adopted by the firms. So market size of the host country in relation to size and income of population and market growth also attracts FDIs. So large market can adapt more firms and also bring the economies of scale. So market size is another aspect which attracts the FDIs in the country, right? So large market access has been the main motive for investments by the foreign companies in the developing nations. Now, the third aspect is availability of the cheap labor. Apart from the cheap availability of the raw material, these countries also have the labor and sometimes an educated people at the lower cost, which again helps to minimize the cost of production and increase profits. If you remember, the BPOs were much more, BPO market was very high in the India, because the reason was an educated human resources was available to those firms, to those educated and hardworking human resources was available to those firms at the low cost, and that had affected the employment in the US. That is the reason that when the government have changed in the US, they had restricted to have the BPOs in India, although that had affected the Indian market, but because they are taking this step because they need to see their employment also. So cheap availability of labor, lower cost of labor, lower cost of raw material helps to minimize the cost of production, and it helps to increase the profit which might be they're not getting in their home country. So rate of interest is one thing. Foreign investment is also inspired by the foreign exchange rate, and foreign capital is attracted to countries where the return on investments is high. Next is our socio-economic conditions. The size of population, infrastructure facilities, and income level of a country also influence the direct foreign investment. This I have repeatedly told that population or development or income level is going to attract the market, attract the foreign nations to have the investment, to produce the goods and services, and to sell the goods and services in the. Next is the political situations. Yes, that is a most important factor. Although might be a country is having a good abundance of natural resources, having the good natural human being, cheap availability of labor resource, having the good market potential, but if there is no political stability in the country, it attracts it. It doesn't attract the FDIs because political stability will affect the legal framework. It will affect the judicial system. It will affect the rules, regulations, policies, and without having the stable rules and regulations and policies, any foreign firm investing in the other countries, it's very risky. They will always look upon the political stability, they will always look upon the judicial system if they stuck into the something, and it all the benefit relation with the countries, the other countries also influence the other country to invest. Nowadays we just have a very much so much of jokes that yes, Modi ji is traveling, always traveling, but with this traveling he has improved so much good relations with the other countries, and he has attracted the other developed countries to invest in our country, which again helps to increase the income, to increase the GDP of our country. And last is the government policy, which is also affected, which is affected through the political situation, policy towards foreign investments, policy towards foreign collaborations, policy towards foreign exchange control, policy towards the and incentives offered to foreign investors, incentives which I was talking when we want to attract the FDIs in the not only in the priority sector but in the other sectors which we want them to invest. So we have to give them certain incentives so that they should invest in the non-priority sectors. So government policy affects or influence the FDI in a country a lot. For example, export processing zones have been developed in India to attract FDI and to boost the exports. Now, this was all about the FDI. This was all about the advantage, disadvantage of the FDIs. We have discussed about the determinants of the foreign direct investments. Let's talk about what is happening in relation to the FDI in India. So, as we have discussed, FDI is an important monetary source for Indian economic development, as India is a developing economy. Economic liberalization started in India in the wake of 1991 crisis, and since then FDI has steadily increased in the country. I had told you that before 1991 our economy was not so much open. Yes, we were having the exports, imports, we have some investments, but not at that vast level. Before 1991 we were having so many loans from the foreign countries and the World Bank. Then it was the suggestion from the IMF and World Bank that kindly pay off your loan and open up your country with the for the FDIs, for the foreign investment, so that the the gap which cannot be filled only by the domestic firms can be filled by the foreign investments. So it was only post 1991 when the FDI has, we can see the so much growth in the economy, we can see that more foreign firms in the economy and FDI investments from the foreign firms. So India today is a part of top 100 club on ease of doing business and globally ranks number 1 in the Greenfield FDI ranking. That means making the foreign direct investment in our country is very much easy for any other. So currently FDI is permitted in India through financial collaborations, through joint ventures and technical collaborations, through capital market via euro issues, through private placements or preferential allotments. Major sectors for FDI in India are infrastructure, automotive, pharmaceuticals, defense, retails, railways, chemicals, textiles. And if we see the trend from 1991 to 2004, the major bodies constituting for FDI in India are: in 1991 there was FIPB, Foreign Investment Promotion Board. In 1996 there was Foreign Investment Promotion Council. In 1999 there was Foreign Investment Implementation Authority. In 2004, there was Secretariat for Industrial Assistance. So top investors in India, if we check out, then we can find that there is a Maruti Suzuki, Mauritius, sorry, it's a Mauritius. Then we have the other combination of the other countries. Then we have Singapore, US, UK, Netherlands, and the least is the France in the percent. Now let's check what is the current status of FDI in India, or we can say we should check what are the recent policy measures which are undertaken in the Make in India mission. So number one is we have opened new sectors for the foreign direct investments. We have increased the sectoral limit for existing sectors. We have simplified the rules and the conditions of the FDI policy. 49% of FDI under automatic route permitted is insurance and pension and defense sectors. When we are talking about the automatic route permitted, it means that when investing in the FDI, the major permissions from the RBI is not required. So FDI up to 100% under automatic route permitted in teleports, direct to home, cable networks, mobile TV, head-end, in the sky, broadcasting services. 74% FDI under automatic route permitted in brownfield pharmaceuticals. FDI beyond 74% will be allowed through government approval route. 100% FDI under automatic route permitted in brownfield airport project. And lastly, defense, telecom, private securities or information and broadcasting needs approval of RBI for their offices. So, if we come to the factors affecting FDI, there are two aspects. The first aspect is the problem for low FDI flow to India, and that is that we should study that if the foreign direct investments in India is less as we require it in a more number, so to boost the economy. So, what are the problems that we are facing or the other firms are facing while investing in India? So coming one by one, the number one is the lack of adequate infrastructure facilities. So government is again and again focusing on development of the infrastructure facilities. It might be related to the road, rail, transport, communication, electricity, etc. Then we have certain stringent labor laws which firms investing in our country have to follow, and with which they might not be comfortable enough. And yes, corruption is which that one thing which we are fighting with. BJP government is again coming with the measures. Demonetization was one of the major steps taken by the BJP government to reduce the corruption. Still corruption is there. Yes, demonetization is the step for the black money, and the next step with the taxation, with the GSTs and other measures are the level to remove the corruptions, to handle the corruptions. But yes, corruption is still there, and it creates a problem for the foreign investments. The lack of decision making authority with the state governments, or we can say a certain sort of bureaucracy in decision making, delay in the decision making, and any lacking or delay in the decision making cannot be handled by the business firms because that might be causing to the huge losses. Then we have some limited scales of export processing zones. We have high corporate tax rate which have to be borne by the foreign investors. We have some indecisive government political instability. In the previous slide we have just discussed that a political stable economy is very essential to invite the FDIs, to attract the FDIs. Now coming to the determinants, it is almost the same. We just have a look upon it. The first determinant is stable policies, economic factors, cheap and skilled labor, basic infrastructure, unexplored markets, availability of natural resources. So all the determinants are the same for the FDI, and if it is concerned with India, they will remain the same. Now we come to the needs and challenges of FDI in India. What are the needs? They are again the same which we have studied for the in the initially, that why we need FDI. Like we need FDI in India to have the high level of investment, as it is clear with the previous slides that only the domestic firm investment cannot work for the economic boosting of the country, for the economic growth of the country. We need the high level of investment, and which can be done from the foreign investments. Then the technological gap can be filled, as it helps in having the technological and managerial skills transfers. There are lots of natural resources which can be exploited if there is more of the foreign investments. Understanding the initial risks in the business, development of basic economic infrastructure, improvement in the balance of payment position. We have studied in the previous slide that it helps to increase the exports and decrease the imports. Foreign firms helps increase the competition, as we have studied in the previous slide, that it reduces the monopolies of the domestic firm and increase the competition in the market. Now, the challenges which we are facing. This is a chart which gives the rank that doing business in India, the various aspects rank wise where we are standing. So if we go to the ease of doing business, we are ranking at 134. If we go with the starting a business, we are ranking at 179. We dealing with the construction permits, we are ranking at 182. Getting electricity, we are ranking at 111. Registering property 92 rank, getting credit 28 rank, protecting investors rank 34, paying taxes ranking is 158, trading across border is 132, enforcing contracts 186, and resolving insolvency 121. So these are the various aspects which where we need to improve the rank if we want to attract the more of the foreign investments in our. Discussing about the advantage and disadvantage, they will all be the same with the FDIs and the India also. Advantages are it will help to increase the domestic employment and drop the unemployment. It will help to invest in to increase infrastructure development. It will positively influence on the balance of payment. It will help to have the new technology and know-how. It will help to increase the capital investment. Targeted regional sectoral development can be done through the FDIs. Disadvantages: local firm may lose business because of the attained power of foreign firms. As we have already discussed, okay, foreign firms have the more power, more money, more better technology, better processes. So they give a direct competition to the local businesses, and where the local businesses are in a threat. Second is the repatriation of profit. The foreign firms may not come here to make the money, and they can take all the money back to their host country. Local population may be displaced out of their jobs if they are unable to cope with the technological advanced foreign firms. Here there are two aspects which I want to discuss with you. One is that whenever these investments are made by the foreign firms, they are not bringing the manpower from their own home country. They will hire the manpower from the host country. So if the current manpower in the host country is not enough capable of the technology they are using, they will not get the job. Number one thing. Second thing, what happens in a situation when these firms summed up their business and get back, so the people working in these firms are sacked out. So again it creates the problem of unemployment. Next is technological dependence on the foreign technology resources. So if we recommend for promoting FDI in India, so FDI should be aggressively promoted in R&D, manufacturing. Import duty should be imposed to protect domestic production units. Flexible labor laws are needed. We should promote greenfield projects. Geographical disparity of FDI should be removed. Education sector should be open to FDI. Cooperative societies should be formed for the farmers and other agriculture suppliers to take care of. So these are a few questions which I want you to have notes on it, and it's basically an assignment, and you have to answer these two questions. Now question number one is discuss the recent trends in India's foreign direct investment, and second, what are the various forms in which foreign capital is flowing in India, and you should mail your answers on the ID given in this slide, that is Sugandha Agarwal @ndamdelhi.in. Thank you, students.